This episode and others like it are made possible by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. YouTube has demonetized almost all of my recent videos, so if you're able, please consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. The less you eat, drink, and buy books, the less you go to the theater, the dance hall, the public house, the less you think, love, theorize, sing, paint, fence, etc., the more you save. The greater becomes your treasure which neither moths nor rust will devour, your capital. The less you are, the less you express your own life, the more you have, i.e., the greater is your alienated life. The greater is the store of your estranged being. Everything which the political economist takes from you in life and in humanity, he replaces for you in money and in wealth. All passions and all activity must therefore be submerged in avarice. The worker may only have enough for him to want to live, and may only want to live in order to have that. These words, penned by Karl Marx in 1844, are no less true today than they were 170 years ago, and nowhere on earth do they ring more true than in the United States. As the wealthiest nation on Earth, the US enjoys the privilege of looking down on the rest of the world as, quote, less successful, our people basking in the light of glorious American exceptionalism. What we fail to realize is that our concept of success is not only narrow and short-sighted, but also fundamentally opposed to human flourishing. Our population as a whole may enjoy more wealth than some of our peer nations, but at what cost? Our waking hours are consumed by work, our life expectancy is on the decline, we rate poorly in metrics like happiness and job satisfaction, and those of us in the workforce today will never achieve the financial stability of our parents' generation. In this episode, we're going to attempt to divorce the notion of success from the dogged pursuit of the accumulation of capital. Let's start with the core belief that animates many American workers, the idea of the American dream. A sort of national ethos, the philosophy of the American dream can be summed up something like this. Everyone has the opportunity for prosperity and success, regardless of their background and based solely upon their ability or achievement. It's very much a pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality, a phrase which is also very common in American life. The idea that one should be able to succeed without any external help, solely through one's own force of will and hard work. This notion is, of course, absurd, and is made even more ridiculous by the fact that the phrase has been adopted by so many in a manner completely opposite to its original meaning. To pull yourself up by your own bootstraps is obviously impossible, and that was the original meaning of the phrase, to attempt something that is completely absurd. Of course, in America, nothing is impossible, so we refitted the expression to better suit our dogmatic obsession with self-reliance. America is an interesting case study, because unlike many other countries, when settlers first arrived here, there seemed to be an endless expanse of land to explore and claim. This frontier lifestyle gave birth to the restless nature of the American dream. One governor noted in 1774 that the Americans forever imagine the lands further off are still better than those upon which they are already settled. He added that, if they attained paradise, they would move on if they heard of a better place farther west. This sums up the American relationship to work pretty well. What we have is never enough. We need to accumulate more and more wealth, never satisfied, ever striving. Over the last couple centuries, the American dream has evolved into what we see today. Work hard, save money, send your kids to college so they can live a better life than you did, retire to Florida. In a lot of ways, this is a noble goal. The desire for your children to live a better life than you did is what we should expect of ourselves. But more recently, over the past 50 years or so, the benefits of hard work have been stripped away, and the things older generations took for granted have all but disappeared. Jobs are harder to find and pay far less money than our parents were paid for comparable positions. Pension plans and retirement benefits are rarely offered these days. We have some of the worst vacation and parental leave options in the world. Much of the economy has shifted to gig work, which doesn't have to provide health insurance or any other benefits. And domestic and global perception of the US is on a decidedly downward trajectory. But don't just take my word for it, let's look at a few statistics. Back in the 1960s, only 20% of American mothers worked. This was partly due to the perceived role of the mother as the primary homemaker and caretaker, but it was also largely because most households only needed one source of income to provide a financially stable and upwardly mobile life. Today, 70% of American children live in households where both parents are employed. Most families simply can't get by on a single source of income. At least 134 countries have laws that cap the maximum length of the work week. The US does not. In the United States, almost 86% of men and over 66% of women work more than 40 hours per week. You've probably heard that Japanese workers are some of the most overworked in the world. The average American works 137 more hours per year than the average Japanese worker. We work 260 more hours than the British. We work 499 more hours than the French. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, productivity of the average American worker has increased by 400% since 1950. If we're producing value at 4 times the previous rate, that would mean we could earn a comparable living to our grandparents in 1/4 the work hours, right? Obviously, that's not the case. We're working longer hours at a drastically increased rate of productivity, but we don't benefit from that labor. Well, at least we're rewarded with generous vacation and parental leave. Oh, wait, no. We have the worst rankings in the developed world, and worse rankings than many third world countries. Among 41 studied nations, the US ranks dead last in terms of paid parental leave. We are the only nation out of those 41 that does not mandate some amount of paid parental leave. For comparison, the smallest amount of paid leave required by the remaining 40 nations in the study is about 2 months. 2 months of paid leave in the US is unfathomable. In 34 of the 41 countries, some of the leave is allocated for new fathers. There's a reason we only ever hear the phrase maternity leave in the US, and that's because new fathers are never eligible for leave in order to spend time with their child. Some countries that rank higher than the US include Mexico, Greece, Croatia, even our fellow workaholic Japan. Estonia offers 86 weeks of paid parental leave. Again, the United States offers nothing. There are 0 industrialized nations on Earth that don't have a mandatory option for paid parental leave, except the US. Vacation and sick time is a similar story. We don't have a federal law requiring paid sick days, nor do we have a law mandating paid annual leave, once again making us the only industrialized nation not to do so. Take a look at this graph. You might notice there's a bar missing. That would be the United States, not mandating any paid leave whatsoever. It's especially depressing when you realize that a McDonald's employee in Norway gets more vacation time than just about any American worker, regardless of field or salary. Meanwhile, in the United States, we abuse our low-paid workers and lambaste them for being lazy and not finding a better job. It's no wonder that our citizens consistently rank poorly for happiness and job satisfaction. They're being worked to death, are not offered any benefits, get no time off, and on top of that are abused for trying to earn a living. What's perhaps more disappointing than wealthy older people deriding low-paid workers is other workers in precarious positions doing the same. For example, take gig economy workers. While some of them are fully aware that their occupation is based on their own exploitation, there's a disappointing subset of people who buy into the notion of, quote, hustle culture. You'll see these people make inspirational Instagram posts, posting images of Jeff Bezos, using hashtags like rise and grind, and going on about how the key to success is to work all day every day until it pays off. Here's the thing. For these people, it will never pay off. Deifying rich people who accumulated their wealth by exploiting others or inheriting vast sums of money doesn't make you smart, it means you've bought their propaganda. If you drive 15 hours a day for Uber, you might make a bit more money, but you don't have any opportunity for advancement. You're not suddenly going to get health insurance or vacation time because you're working hard. You're a piece of equipment to them. You drive the car, you make them money. That's all you're worth to Uber. But this toxic idea that we need to give up hours, days, years of our lives as a sort of sacrifice to appease the gods of success is not only misguided, it's actively throwing away your life. Hustle culture destroys your work-life balance, and those who engage in it see themselves as morally superior to people working traditional jobs for a wage. These sorts of false divisions among the working class are exactly what the ruling class wants. The same is true of the false division between the working class and the so-called middle class. It's a meaningless distinction designed solely to make more comfortable workers feel superior to their lower-paid counterparts, and therefore at odds with their own best interests. If you feel superior to others, or see yourself more like the billionaires than your fellow workers, you'll never organize against your oppressors, because you believe you might one day become part of this upper echelon. If you just work a few more hours per week, surely you'll be rewarded and gain entrance into their elite club. America's cult of overwork destroys our collective imagination. It removes every possible motivation beyond the desire for the accumulation of more wealth. To many Americans, there is nothing but work and the possibility of eventual reward. Work is the only thing that matters. But there is so much more to life than what capitalism has conditioned us to pursue. If we worked fewer hours, we could take time to spend with family and friends. We could learn that hobby we've been putting off for years. We could write novels, produce art, create things that enrich the lives of others on a fundamental human level. We could take time to just exist. When was the last time you just took a day to relax and you didn't feel guilty about it? We're so conditioned to believe that we should always be working that even when we're not working, it's all we can think about. The American dream, the obsession that anyone can, quote, make it if they work hard enough, is thoroughly tangled up with the notion of American exceptionalism. We think it's because we work so hard that we are exceptional. And you know what? We are exceptional. We're the most overworked population on the planet. Our standard of living is going down. Our life expectancy is going down. We don't get vacation days, sick days, or time to spend with our newborn children. We're increasingly unhappy, our economy is teetering on the brink of the worst financial crisis in modern history, we can't protect ourselves from a pandemic that everyone else handled because we're so conditioned to believe that we always need to be working. And somehow we still believe that the American dream is a reality. So yes, we are exceptional, but we're exceptional in all the wrong ways. If we don't dismantle the oppressive structures that enable this culture of overwork, this is the only form of American exceptionalism that will ever exist. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this kind of content is supported by my patrons on Patreon. This type of video, while very important, is something that sponsors won't touch. In order to pay the bills and keep this channel running, I rely on AdSense revenue, sponsors, and donations from generous viewers. By producing explicitly anti-capitalist content, I lose out on both sponsors and AdSense. If you enjoy the kind of videos I'm producing, and you're able to chip in even $1 a month, I would greatly appreciate the support. You can find my Patreon page at patreon.com/secondthought. Every tier comes with Discord benefits for our new and growing Discord server. You can check out my previous episodes by clicking the links on your screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.